Good morning, everybody. I've been struggling with my next scripted video, so I consider myself quite lucky to have woken up this morning and see a new video from Matt Colville that I can react to. So Matt Colville, just this morning released a video. It was an outdoor video where he's going for a walk and he was talking about my DMing style. And I have a lot of interesting thoughts on that, but I don't really have like a central thesis here, so I'm not going to make a scripted video here. I'm going to respond to some of the things Matt Colville said, and I'm just going to kind of go off the top of my head as I sort of work through this idea with you. So, what was Matt Colville's video? He said that we have all of these categories for different types of players. Players who want like the theatrical actor kind of player. We have the very mechanically focused kind of player. We have the player who is all about just wanting to fight monsters and kill things, and we have the audience member and who's really just here for the good time and seeing everyone else's stories. And we have all this categorization, but we don't really, to my knowledge, or have any sort of categorization of the types of game masters. And I mean, if you think what kind of GM you are, well, like the way I run games varies very much depending on what system I'm running. I don't run a GURPS campaign the same way that I run a Pathfinder campaign. I don't run that the same way I run a Fate campaign. There's so much about, and even within the same systems, I might do things in one campaign that I would not do in another, just based on the themes and the tone and the player characters that we are dealing with. Matt Colville goes on to define what he is looking to start a conversation about DMing style as the thing that is always true. When you strip away the system, the mechanics, the specific campaign that you're running, what is true about your D&D campaign, your Fate campaign, and your Cthulhu campaign? What style remains between all of those things? And the first thing that Matt Colville talked about was drawing a distinction between GMs who are primarily playing the world versus GMs who are more involved with the internal thoughts and processes of the player characters. And on that axis, I would say that I am definitely a game master who wants to be playing the world. I don't want really to have to think about what your player character's goals are. I want that to come out naturally. I don't really want to have anything to say about your character's internal dialogue, your character's internal thoughts and feelings and emotions. I want to present, whether I'm running Fate or D&D or GURPS or whatever, or Pathfinder, I want to be playing the world. I have enough on my plate. I have an entire world. I don't want to think about your character or what your character's thinking about. I want to create the scenario. Now, that isn't to say that I'm completely ignoring your character, of course. If your player character, you write your backstory and you say, "Oh yeah, my dad, he was a real right bastard," I'm going to use that information. I'm going to use that NPC. He's going to go into the world, and whatever happens from that will just be me playing that NPC that you've given me. You've given me this NPC, and I'm going to have that NPC doing something. And then how much they get involved will depend on the player's choices. An example of, but I mean, I do expand on that. I think about it. I incorporate it into the world. For an example of this, when I ran my mega Worlds of Heroic Adventure D&D 5e campaign years ago. One of the player characters in one of the campaigns that made up that mega campaign, the Curse of Three Eyes, one of the player characters was playing a monk. His name was Creed. And in his backstory, he told me that he was trained by his uncle, who was like a big famous, hero kind of character, who then, after his character came of age and was fully trained as a level 1 monk, because, um, that's where the campaign started. Or level 3. I don't remember if we started at 1 or 3. Doesn't matter. His uncle, Shade, disappeared. He doesn't know where he's gone. He doesn't know where he's doing or what he's gone or why he left. So I took that as a gift. I figured out what Shade had done, why Shade had left. Why is my arm broken? Okay, there we go. I figured out why Shade had left, what was going on with that character. He left. He only showed up in the campaign briefly through like some remote communication magic. It doesn't matter, campaign stuff. But I did reveal over the course of the campaign that Shade had other students before our player character. And those other students became had fallen to the dark side, as it were. They were servants of the enemy, and there was a series of duels, or not duels, but, a series of combats where they showed up, and plot stuff happened. But I wasn't thinking about Creed's emotional impact or anything. I was just setting up the situation. It's like he gave me this NPC, and I extrapolated what was going on there. I had no care about how this was resolved. And this was resolved by them killing 2 of them and pardoning and freeing 1 of them. But they could have killed all 3. They could have sworn to never kill any of their brothers, and tried to save all of them. That was not my concern. How Creed reacted was the Creed's players' problem, not mine. So I would say that my style is definitely, I'm going to create the world. I'm going to take input on that world from my players, of course, but I'm going to create the world and I'm going to play that world as, that's where my focus is. My focus is how are these NPCs going to react to what is happening based on their knowledge and understanding of the situation, and go from there. Now, another thing that Matt Colville talked about as a potential axis for talking about, game mastering was high combat versus low combat. But I agree with his take that that's not a very useful axis, because that just varies too much depending on system and campaign. If I'm running a Pathfinder 2 game, there's going to be a lot more combat than if I am running the My Little Pony Friendship is Magic TTRPG, both of which I have run. And, different situations. And even within the same system, when I ran a game in GURPS that focused primarily on being exorcists, the players were very rarely in what you would call combat. They had several. It was a short campaign. It kind of ended because I was moving to Spain, and so it ended prematurely. But there were several of their missions where there was absolutely no combat at all. There was, like, one of their first solo missions was to help the ghost of this dog pass on that was lingering around a troubled boy, because the dog felt that it had to stay and protect him, but their mentor told them that a lingering ghost will eventually become a demon and it needs to move on. So they had to go, and like that mission was helping this little boy stand up to his bullies. And other than punching the bully in the face, which was the little boy, not the player characters who ended up doing it, there was no combat, right? So the but then on the other hand, I just ran a game in a couple of sessions of my Men in Black GURPS campaign. The last couple of sessions were not the last one, but the two sessions before that were basically massive running gunfights with alien soldiers in power armor because plot stuff. So combat, the amount of combat is irrelevant to my game mastering style. If style is the thing that is always true, combat has nothing to do with my style. What else is always true? So what I would like to add to Matt Colville's video is another axis of of GMing style that I think is a really important one. And that is, I don't want to say deference to the rules, but that is the best term that's coming to my mind. And that is basically fudge or no fudge. And as a GM, my style is I will never, ever fudge a die roll. When I'm running on Foundry, I make all the monsters' rolls right in front of the party. When I'm playing Pathfinder, I toggle on all of the metagame information so that when a player sees that they hit or missed or crit or critically missed, they see that at the same time that I do. In Pathfinder, I don't show them the exact HP, but they do see descriptors. A monster goes from uninjured to barely injured to injured to badly injured to near death to dead. And that happens automatically without any interaction from me. In other games, I'll show health bars or things like that for the monsters. Mostly because I think that if a monster is wounded, you should know how much the wounds are affecting it. And with other systems, I do the same thing. I roll when I'm running a GURPS game, I roll the monster's dodge in front of the players. If the monster critically succeeds on his dodge, well, he critically succeeded on his dodge. What can I do about it? If he critically fails, fuck me, I guess. It happens. So, and I know that there are other game masters who like to hide that information so that they can play with it. That isn't to say, though, that I won't fudge the world if the situation calls for it. I will never fudge a die roll, but spoilers for a future episode of my recorded actual play, Tales of Principles. This story I'm about to tell is from a boss fight in the Shrine of Wood. Minor spoilers. I'm not going to spoil any plot stuff, but I'm going to sort of talk about the fight. So, in that boss fight, the things immediately went sideways for the players. The principal basically in the first turn, two of the 4 player characters were down and dying. And on the monster's next turn, it was starting its turn in melee with a third PC. So 2 PCs are down. It took down the monk on its first turn. The witch tried to pull out a scroll of heal to get the monk back up, not realizing that reactive strike triggered. The reactive strike was a crit. She went down as well. So now half the party is unconscious. It's the beginning of the monster's turn. They are in melee with the Animist. So we have 2 people down, and the Animist is about to go down. So I told I had already revealed that the Animist. So this Animist player has a pact with the steward of flame and earth to kill this specific wood elemental, the principle of wood. And they had already the party had been about to run. I had on the animus previous turn, I had the spirit of the steward whispering into their head, telling them to be the kindling. I actually had a different plan in mind, but this is what actually happened. They were like, okay, I'm going to start throwing fire magic. And they revealed that, the boss has a weakness 10 to wood or to fire because they're made of wood. And then but they still ended their turn there in melee with the wood elemental. Now, wood elemental's turn is beginning. I describe it raising up its stone longsword. It's about to kill Kiri, the animist. Half the party is dead, is dying. Due to this thing having reach and reactive strike, anyone trying to get up after a heal from the ones from the Oracle of Life, the one remaining PC on their turn, would trigger reactive attacks. It was a bad situation. I don't fudge dice. What I did do was I had that voice speak in Kiri's head again. And basically, I gave her a reaction to raise her eye patch, reveal the eye, not her eye, but the glowing, burning eye of the Steward of Earth and Flame. And I used that narrative as a justification to deny the boss one of his actions. And then, having revealed that she is his bane, he then used his second two actions to step away from her, keeping her in reach but out of melee, and raise his shield. Other than giving her this one-time reaction to steal an action, I did nothing to change the outcome or to nothing mechanical. I didn't fudge any dice, and to a lot of extent, I feel a little bit like I should have just let them die there. The only reason I didn't was because the tone of this campaign is meant to be JRPGs. This is a campaign really inspired by Final Fantasy and the later Final Fantasy games, or I guess I think of them as later ones, but I guess I mean the middle Final Fantasy games, like 6 to 12, or the Tales of series, or those sort of narrative-heavy JRPGs. And if this was any other game, I would have let the dice fall where they were. But I thought in this instance that it would be better to make this a hype moment for Kiri rather than a devastating moment for the party losing half of their members or more. And so that's what I did. Also, it's a recorded game, it's a show, so I wanted that, so I didn't want to have a complete cast change in like the 9th episode. So that is probably the most fudging that I have done in a long time. My point was GMing style. I think a good axis here is world, or a good sort of beginning to this conversation that Matt Colville has started would be playing the world versus crafting for the characters, and fudging versus or deference to the rules. And in that, I am playing the world, and I have a strong deference to the rules, although as I have explained, perhaps I can be a little bit flexible, but I will never, ever, ever touch the dice. If I think something needs to happen, I will not roll a die for it. And if I do roll a die for it, I will accept any outcome. That is my game. That is my game mastering style. I want to hear. There isn't a lot of terminology for this. As Matt Colville said, we have all these terms for describing players, but as far as I know, there isn't a lot about game masters. So I want to hear what you think. What are your thoughts on what I've said? What other like axes of game mastering style do you think exist? Talk about that in the description of this video. And thank you all for watching. Check out Tales of Principles. I'll link to it in the description below. The episode I talked about hasn't come out yet, as Tales of Principles is an edited actual play, and it is still in the edit. That's a few episodes in the future, but start getting caught up because that campaign is a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to playing more of it when we can. About to end the end of season 1 of Tales of Principle, so now's a great time to get caught up for that season finale. Thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time.